Hey everybody, it's Robin Ayers with the Raw Report, and I am so blessed to be here with the one, the only Pastor Keion Henderson. Hello to you, sir. How are you today?
I am doing fantastic. How are you?
I am blessed. I'm good. Do you find it funny how people start talking to you like that when you when they're like, I'm talking to a pastor, I'm blessed and highly favored? Or
So this is what I always do. So they start off and they start telling me they're blessed and highly favored. I'm like, all right, now that we got all that out of the way, how you doing? Because I know that ain't what you said to your sister when you called her yesterday. You know, you call your sister, hey sis, how you doing? Blessed and highly favored. I doubt that that's how it went. So I'm your brother, you my sister. I'm
That's
good, you
right.
good,
I'm
and we
good.
are blessed and highly favored though.
100%. And for the record, I usually do say blessed. I don't go highly favored though. So I wasn't gonna hit you with that. Not today, not today. Very, very happy to be on this line with you to discuss your new book. Congratulations, Lazy Love. You are back in here with authorship. How's it going so far?
It's going good, and this is the hard part, Robin, because the editors don't know your agent. Nobody knows how you're doing yet because you're still in the first week. So
Yeah.
we haven't gotten, all the sales in. So just waiting on the bottom line. The experience, though, fantastic. The feedback that people have been giving me, and the chords and the strings that I've been plucking that were intentional about this book. I'm excited about what I'm hearing as it relates to feedback.
Because don't you find like for the most part, that's what really matters. It's not, so, I mean, obviously the bottom line and all that is great. But what really matters is how you're impacting people and the messages that people are receiving from your book,
Absolutely.
right?
Yeah, and so it's both and because the only way you know the impact is by the bottom line numbers, and so I'm kind of in limbo waiting on those. But when I talk to everyday people, person to person, face to face, direct message to direct message, all arrows seem to be pointing in a positive direction about the message because I know that this book it's not a dating book, right? You don't pick this book up to find your boo. This ain't the book that you pick up to find. It's where you find yourself.
Mm.
This book helps you find yourself, and it makes your relationships better because here's the subtitle: you have to recognize, then reverse the threats that make your love lazy.
Okay, you going in. We have to go there. Let's dive in a little bit. You talk about the four threats to any successful relationship. And even the title in and of itself is lazy love. It's a catchy phrase, it's a catchy title. One would think lazy love, meaning just be lazy with it. That's what love is. But describe that a little bit for people who are maybe on the outside trying to get to know
Yeah,
a little bit more about your book.
yeah, I can understand how the title is a little intriguing. It was intriguing when God gave it to me. I was literally just preparing a sermon for maybe a class or a sermon for Valentine's Day, and I was speaking to it, and it was during COVID, and we couldn't have a lot of people in the building. So what we did is we just put some tables together in one of our campuses, and we had couples to come and sit around a table, and we started talking about love. That's how this actually came about.
Mm.
And I read a scripture in Hebrews chapter 6, verse 10 through 12. It says that God was paying attention to the works of the people. And he says that I would have you not be lazy in your work and in your love. And I'm paraphrasing, but when I read it, I never connected laziness with love. I assumed in my entire life laziness, work, laziness, how you show up. But when he said I wouldn't have you be lazy in your love, it prompted an idea. And so I looked up the word lazy.
Hmm.
And the original version of the word lazy in the Greek was sluggish or sloth. And as a preacher, I think about Solomon in Proverbs when he says, don't be lazy like the sloth. So I looked it up. Then I got out of the Bible. Then I
Mm.
went into actual study of the sloth. And here's what I found out, Robin. When a sloth moves slow, we always talk about, you can see it, right? How it moves slow.
Yeah.
The diet, it's the leaves that it eats that causes a medicinal effect. So the sloth, when you see it moving slow, is literally high because that's the counteraction of the leaf that they eat. That's the result of what they eat. And that's what prompted the book, because some of us are moving slowly in our healing process and slowly in our love process, not because of other people, but because of what we ingest and digest.
Mm. Mm, mm, mm,
So
mm.
that's where the book came from. So you can blame your wife, but it might be your trauma. And you can blame your husband, but it may be that you're still in the relationship that's over. And so when you look at what you are ingesting and digesting, it produces lethargic movement in and around relationships. So when people go to the next church, they're slow to get in ministry. Well, it ain't that church that hurt you, it's the one you came from. So
Mhm.
you have to heal before you move on, because you have to be responsible for giving somebody a better version of yourself.
Well, that's the interview. I mean, you done preached an entire message right there. That is a whole that those are bars. So people are going to receive that. Do you break that down in this book? You break down how you
Yeah.
received it. Okay.
Yeah, so what I've been doing, as and great people like you who have given me an opportunity to sit down and talk about it, obviously we want to help people and we're selling a book. So I've been producing and presenting the problem on the interview. You got to get the book to find out the answer, because
Definitely.
there are some tools and some tips in that book, I promise you. And I'm not saying this because I wrote it. God gave it to me. I am not intelligent enough to have written this on my own. I know he gave it to me. I would almost guarantee that you could improve every relationship you have by 50% if you would just practice the 4 things in the book. I
Wow.
would say, venture, for anybody who's serious, it can give you a total about face in your marriages, in your with your children, with how you see the world, with boss, even with how you accept criticism from people who are critical of how you live your life. If you learn where people come from, and we can get into it today if you want to talk a little bit about it, when you learn where people come from, you're not so offended by how they show up.
Okay, you just said a whole lot right here. Before we talk about offense, because that's a big one right there. How have you been able to, because you said this is something that God gave you. What was that learning thing for you in the midst of that? Like, did you recognize, okay, I'm already operating a little bit with what God told me? Or did you have a whole revelation yourself and have to sort of adjust some things about how you ingested certain things to affect your relationships? Where are you
Yeah.
or were you in the process?
Yeah, so it's very hard as a preacher, author, a leader, as a parent, as a mother. It's very difficult to be convincing if you haven't first been convicted.
Sure.
So the most difficult process of this book was stepping on my own toes. I'm like, well, there's a problem. There's a sore spot. So I wrote it out of experience, not expertise. And I had to really look at my life and say, oh my God, I've been lazy in these areas.
Mm.
And I've come through some of these things. So it was part sharing my experience
Okay.
and part saying in the book, hey, we in this thing together, because this is a lifelong journey. You have to walk this thing out, as long as you're here. So it was both and, not either or. It was me learning things about myself and also presenting things I had already learned about myself.
That's so good. I mentioned the offense, right? You are in it's a very special position, and I say special because obviously you being a pastor, a leader, a thought leader for so many other people, and someone that people sort of rely on for help and guidance in life. You are on this platform, very large platform where I'm sure experience different offenses or, you've gone viral several times. We don't even have to get into why you've gone viral, but, and we're here on the outside guessing whether people have been offended or anything like that. I'm kind of wondering how that shows up, as you are sort of in the process of going through. How does it show up to using the tips that you're talking about when it
Yeah.
comes to offense? If
Yeah,
that
because
makes
I could be extremely lazy when it comes to offense, because I am in a unique position where not only am I relied on, I'm lied on. So I'm in a very, very difficult position. And as a pastor, I have to love everybody. If
yeah.
I were lazy, I would just say, to heck with the critics. Who
Mhm.
cares what they say? And I would move on. But because I believe that love covers a multitude of sin, then my true perspective is you got two options in this world. You're either the critic or you're the criticized. I'd much rather be the criticized because it says that I'm doing something. I also understand that every one of those viral moments are next door to a moment that was more substantial that never went viral.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I've done a lot of great things through my ministry that nobody ever spoke about. So I'm cognizant of the fact that when they love you, you can't be too high. And when they dislike you, you can't be too low. Let me give you an example.
Okay.
The day President Biden said that he was going to resign, I called one of my friends over at CNN that I know was going to be on the panel that day. And I said, oh my God, it's about to go down. So he says, my brother, well, give me your suggestion. Who do you think should follow him? And I started throwing names out there, right? I said, what about Hakeem Jeffries? You know, he's the Speaker of the House. And I said, what about this person? What about that person? And him knowing intimately, he said, well, it's not in the cards for that person. It's not in the cards for that person. He said, what do you think about Vice President Harris? We didn't know for several hours who his successor would be. So I said to him in that moment, and this is a transparent moment. I know some people take this might go viral and they'll run with it, but who cares? I said to him, well, the natural pick would be his VP. I said, but the difficulty of it is if you look at history, Black women say they don't like her. White men won't vote for her. And I said, if the white men won't vote for her and the Black women don't like her, and I'm going off of this is what people have said. You can go Google this and pull this off the internet. We are so hard on our leaders.
Yeah.
And so the Black women didn't like her. And I said, white men won't vote for her. In 8 hours, we found out that she was the presumptive successor for him. And everybody was like, Team Kamala. I texted him back and said, I forgot the world we live in. I am sorry. Because what I said 8 hours ago was true. 8 hours later, it isn't. Why? Because Jesus said one day they will say, all hail. The next Sunday, they will say, crucify him. So I have to know that about our society. And so I work on me because I can't work on them. And I love them in spite of it. And I'm going to show up the next time and give them all I got. Because if I don't do it, then I feel like I'm one less hope that they'll have in the world to recognize that you don't have to be ugly to be effective. So and people have a right to their own opinion. It doesn't mean they don't like you. They just speak their own opinion. And I understand that I'm in a public place and criticism is a part of the job. So, I have to practice what I preach. And so I love everybody in spite of what they have to say, viral or not.
Yeah. Wow. On a practical level, with people who are maybe not on, that don't have the same platform that you do, but just operating in life on a practical level, I get it. You're strong, you're a leader and all of that, but how would you suggest that people strengthen up to, kind of face head on some of the critics, and whether it be social media or just in real life? How do you prepare or guide people in that way?
That's a major question, Robin. It's one of the best questions I've been asking the last 2 weeks. The 4 threats to any successful relationship is a lack of communication, a lack of respect, confusing intimacy with sex. Those are 3 big ones. And then the last one, and this is the one that really, really kind of stays in my head, is a lack of forgiveness. Okay, so if you don't talk, you don't forgive, you don't respect, and you misunderstand sex for intimacy, those threats will drag you to the ground. So you ask the question, how do you strengthen yourself? By mastering forgiveness. Well, let's talk about what forgiveness is, Robin. It's if you break it down, it's beforgiveness. Beforgiveness. It's not for F-O-U-R, F-O-R, like the forehead. So the forehead is called the forehead because it is first. So when you forgive, you actually are offering a gift to someone before you're offended. The problem with most people is we're trying to build a house in a storm. You can't forgive nobody when they hurt you. You can't forgive anybody when they've offended you. You have to make up in your mind before you're offended that come hell or high water, no matter what they do or no matter what they say, I'm going to forgive them. That's where I live my life. I live my life in the be forgiveness. So when you say something about me, you're already forgiven because I don't drink poison and expect you to die. That's what non-forgiveness is. So no matter what you do, no matter what you say, no matter what you write, you're going to be forgiven by me. You can't make me hate you. I've got eternal implications that are etched in stone. I'm not going to hell to be mad at nobody. So I believe that people have to strengthen themselves before the storm and stop trying to build themselves in the midst of chaos.
Sir? Okay. Hold on. Thank you. I mean, I'm getting a lot here. I mean, this is very valuable, and I'm sure people will find out a lot more in the book, but this is so valuable. Just on a side note, I mean, is this a lifetime of learning? This is something that I'm sure you have to study in the Bible, but you're practicing things in real life. You're gathering knowledge and wisdom from real life as well. And then it makes Keion Henderson. I mean, how do you get to these places where you just know so much wisdom and you can sort of apply it and break it down in a less complex way than maybe maybe other people have said it? How do you get there?
So wisdom is the correct usage of knowledge. So what I am good at is I am good at paying attention to other people's pain and making sure that it is not my own. So I have mentors in my life. And when I look at people who stayed mad at people for 20 years and realize they didn't do anything for them, when I see that I was mad at my father for not raising me all the way until I was in my 30s, and then he died, and I wish I could have given him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation and brought him back and said, "Stay with me, even though I don't know you." So when I look at my life, and anybody who's paying attention, it's easy to get to these conclusions. Discipline is far cheaper than regret. It is far cheaper than regret. So I am no better than anyone else, except for the fact that I not only learn from my experiences, I learn from yours. And when you look at the world, who has ever become a better person because they hated somebody all of their life?
Right.
Who has ever come out of a situation a winner because they refused to forgive? Or whoever had a great relationship because they refused to communicate? Whoever had an amazing marriage because they loved sex more than intimacy? It's not rocket science.
Yeah.
It's right in front of us. You just have to have the strength to practice the right thing.
I'm sure this can't be the last book that you have, in you. I mean, I'm sure, I'm just positive about that. How does that go for you though? Do you have to have an experience such as this one? You said you were preparing for Valentine's Day and God laid this on you. You got a download and you said, here's the next book. Is that how you foresee the next, I mean, I know we're living in this moment, but is that how you foresee maybe the next book coming? Just experience?
It is experience, but they don't come in order because I think my next book is the first book I ever wrote. But I have to wait until life has brought me to a place where I can tell the story from a place of experience and not intellect. I found that anything that I've ever said from my intellect never went as far as anything I said from my heart. So this book was the last book that I wrote, and it came out before the two that I've already written that are not done yet. I've got a book coming out next year, and so that one's coming. But the one that I'm really working on, I think it's 5 times better than this one.
Can you give us a clue as to what this is about? I mean, a little something, because I feel like we on the roll here, Pastor Keion.
Oh my God. I think the publishers will kill me.
Oh.
Do you have a son by any chance?
No, I have 2 daughters.
2 daughters. So I got a daughter. I will say this. I have a book in me for men, but it is for the women who love them. And this book for men will be effective for men who want to see themselves and for women who want to understand who in the world is this joke in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I wrote this book 12 years ago.
Wow.
And I've never released it. But I think I'm at the point now as a full grown man
Yeah.
that now I can speak for men and not be a boy talking.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I'm looking forward to that. And I'm looking forward to reading Lazy Love as well. I won't keep you much longer, but I have to ask you about this and see if I can get your perspective on it, just because we're talking about relationships, we're talking about love and other things. There's a conversation that is, I feel like it's ongoing, but it sort of surfaced again, talking about Kirk Franklin. He was mentioning, you may have seen it, and I don't need you to necessarily talk specifically about what Kirk Franklin said, which was that he believes Western Christianity is weaponizing marriage and sexuality and giving, things like that. But it leads to a conversation about church and what the church believes and what the church is pushing. I have this conversation so many times on my radio station, and I want to know your thoughts on the importance. You still see the importance of marriage versus, some other people who believe that there's an agenda being pushed from the church or from society. Your thoughts on just marriage as a whole?
Yeah, so the Bible says in Genesis that it isn't good for man to be alone. So he gave man a suitable helpmeet. Okay, so that was the original intent for God. He intended for every male to have a female, or for every husband to have a wife. And you even have to be careful with saying that today, because then you'll have everybody on you about those things. But be that as it may, marriage is God's design.
Mm-hmm.
But then sin came into the world.
Yeah.
And we call it the fall. And then you have a guy like Paul who says, I'd rather you marry than burn, but for me, I have the gift of singleness. So then we know that it is possible for somebody to have the gift of singleness. But he says that those who are single should only be single for the purposes of using their full time and talent for the pursuit of God.
Okay.
Okay. So I can't be single because I'm angry and I hate everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't stay single and decide to stay single forever, forgive, because the last person hurt me. See, people are staying single for some of the wrong reasons today.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But there is a place in today's world for those who can remain single. Some of the best employees that I have are single. They can stay there all day. They can stay there all night. They can do whatever they want to do. The married people got to be walking out the door at 4:55 because they made a promise.
Yeah.
So there's room in the world for both. Now, the bigger conversation that I think about those who are criticizing what Kirk said, Kirk is a great friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
My issue with those who criticize him is that we just can't have it both ways. It's like no matter what somebody says, we're going to argue about it.
Yeah.
If he would have said that marriage is amazing, then you would have heard the people who said marriage, if it ain't like this, I don't want it. Mm-hmm. Then if he says this, then here comes it. You can't say anything today without it being criticized. And the reason why I want Kirk to stay in the fight is because if we let all of the critics shut the mouths of all of the leaders, we're going to be a leaderless people with no knowledge to pass and transfer.
Yeah.
We kill all of our leaders. We shut everybody down. We cancel everybody. And then we say, who's going to represent us? The person that you cancel, who is as imperfect as you. And by the way, if you have something that's better than what we're saying, would you please speak up so we can follow it?
Right. Yeah, definitely.
Right. Because criticism is not a language. It's easy. But what do you have to say that debunks what he said so that we can pay attention to that? I didn't like it. It's not a conversation.
Okay. I get it. I totally understand it. I mean, we had an entire conversation on this yesterday. we'll probably have it again as well. So I definitely appreciate you giving me your perspective on it.
Absolutely.
For people who are single, looking to be married, your 4 threats to any successful relationship is bottom line. Do you believe that that's what they need to walk away with, learning what the 4 threats are, and they're going to be better off, better served for their helpmate in the future?
Yeah, so the 4 threats, but you got to find out what I'm talking about in the 4 threats. I'll
Definitely.
give you a hint. Okay, this is actually me reading the book for the people. So you got something that I haven't given to a lot of people.
Okay.
In the book, I talk about an idea called attunement. Attunement is the harmony that 2 people have with one another. Okay, so inside of one of the threats is attunement. I play the lead guitar and the acoustic guitar. And so the acoustic guitar is my favorite because I can play it in the house. If I play the electric, I got to go get the amp. I got to get the cord. I got to plug it up. It's a whole lot. And then my wife might be like, that's too loud. Do it nicely. So I get my acoustic and I'll just play songs. And the Lord gave me this idea about attunement is I don't play it often. So every time I go get the acoustic guitar, I take out my app called Guitar Tuner and I tune the guitar up chord by chord, string by string. Okay. So E, A, D, G, B, E, and I get them. It is only when I get those strings tightened or loosened so that they can give me the right tune that I can play harmony. The problem is that sometimes the string can be too loose, sometimes it can be wound too tight. And in either one of those instances, it gives off the wrong sound. So one of the things you find out in the threats is that you can be in a relationship, but if you don't tune it, there's no harmony. There's no harmony. So how do you tune a relationship? So you can tune your relationship a myriad of ways. You can go to couples counseling, you can go to therapy, you can read books together. So marriages, relationships, boss, employee, children, parent, father, sister, brother, the relationship is out of tune. You can't drive a car forever without getting a tune-up. You can't just run the relationship in the ground and recognize one day, oh, I'm getting less mileage. So you've got to tune it. And only when you tune it do you get harmony.
Yeah.
Another idea is attachment styles. We love based on how we were loved as infants. So if your mother or father or your grandmother or your godmother, whoever raised you, if they did everything for you, then you feel like people don't love you when they don't do everything for you.
Yeah.
If they told you to do everything for yourself, then you're so headstrong that nobody can help you. So you got to go back. Remember, recognizing and reversing. You got to go back and find out not only how you were raised, but you got to find out how the person you love or in relationship, how they were raised, so you can show up in a way that's not offensive to their origin, not based on how your mama did it, but how did his mama do it.
That's right. Wow. Oh. Pastor Keion, before I let you go, because this is something I wrote notes. All right, I gotta go read my notes as well as the book. What don't people know about you? I found out that you're a musician. You can play. People know you. Obviously, we know you online if we're not attending your church. But something fun that people just don't know.
Oh man, that I love to play golf. I don't know if people would know that. Like, I love it. I could play it every day if it was possible, but I'm married, so it isn't.
Yeah.
That lady, she let me go sometimes, but sometimes she's like, nah, bro, not today.
Yeah.
I love golf. Something that people don't know about me.
Are you a foodie?
I am not.
You're not a foodie. Okay, so you're pretty.
I'm not. I eat so that I'm not hungry.
Not okay.
That driving 30 minutes for a specific hamburger, the devil is a lie. I just won't do it. I'll eat what's close by. I'm not doing it. My wife will get on the plane for a cheeseburger. Well, she don't eat cheese, but she'll get on the plane for the right food.
Okay.
I won't do it. So I mean, it's. I guess I'm pretty boring like that. I
Okay,
don't.
no, that's good though. That's good. That's insightful. It's insightful. Um, I've truly enjoyed this time, getting to know a little bit more about you as well as getting to talk about your book. Um, thank you so much. This was so rich and enlightening for me. And so I can't wait for everybody to go read Lazy Love. Anything that you want to leave the listeners who are tuning in, anything that you want to let them know?
Yeah, I think this book is. My wife said like therapy in the book.
Mhm.
Um, I actually read my own book in 2 days. I read it after I wrote it, and then I did the Audible and read it out loud for the listener. So that's me on Audible actually reading the book.
Very
Uh,
cool.
what I think about this book is that it'll work if you work it.
Mhm.
Like it really will work if you work it, and if you listen to it from the perspective of a change agent and not a victim, you can get so much from it.
Mm.
Uh, I think that it'll help you. I think this is the book that you not only get for yourself, it's the one you get for the person you love, and then
Yeah.
y'all come talk about it afterwards. Again, I just can't tell you I wrote this out of my intellect
Mhm.
because it was so many things that were in the book, Robin, that once it was given to me and I read it again, I was like, oh, I forgot I said that.
Wow. Yeah.
Right? Because the way I
You
wrote
know.
it is I actually spoke it and it was dictated as I mean I was just talking and it was dictated and then some of it I had to go back and edit. But yeah, I think it'll work if you work it. I hope you get it. I hope you share it. I hope you like it, and if you don't, tell me that too because I want to know what your actual feedback is so I can get better at it the next time.
Absolutely. Well, I can't wait. Really, truly, this has been an honor. Thank you so much for giving me your time. I wish you the best, you, your family, your beautiful wife, your kids. And hopefully I'll see you in the future and let you know after I read it. Hey, you
Yeah.
helped me out. You helped me out, brother. I appreciate it.
Listen,
I'll let you
thank
know.
you so much. Thank you for sharing me with your audience. We appreciate all of you all who watched us today, and God bless you all, and we love you and thank you.
Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
You as well.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.